Hello, and welcome to our podcast, Cost Action Voices, making young researchers' voices heard for gender equality. And this is March the 6th, 2025. I'm absolutely delighted to start this conversation for Working Group 5, which is with the core aspect of looking at intersectionality. Before I begin, I'd like to also introduce my colleagues who are going to be having a discussion with me around intersectionality and Working Group 5. I have two early career researchers and myself, who's Victoria Shawummi, who is the lead for Working Group 5. Let me start with myself first of all. So my name is Victoria, as I've said, and I work at University College London, where I'm an academic and also Vice Dean for EDI, and I also chair Athena Swan. It's really important to be having somebody who is an expert in the area of intersectionality. I then would like to introduce my two early career researchers. The first one is Nicole Howing, and the second one is Anna Hatter. I'm going to start with Nicole, who's going to say a little bit about herself, and then I'm going to move on to Anna. Nicole, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Victoria. Welcome. My name is Nicole Haring. I'm a senior scientist at the University of Graz, working at the Center for Inter-American Studies. I'm trained in American literary and cultural studies with a focus on gender studies, feminist theory, and critical pedagogies. I'm part of the Cost Action because I'm interested in my research and teaching in intersectionality in critical theory and how we can link it to our understanding of the world and the intersections of society, culture, and education. I'm very honored to be part of this video podcast today here, and I'm looking forward to discussing very important issues of our current times with my two wonderful colleagues. So I'm throwing the ball to Anna to introduce herself as well.
Okay, so I'm Anna Hatta, a PhD candidate in Education and International Development in University College London, UCL. And my doctoral research critically analyzes inclusion of children with regards to gender, caste, ethnicity, disability, and age-related problems. And I draw on intersectionality as a theoretical and methodological approach to attend to complex power dynamics, and including children in school and society, and develop participatory methods to work with children. And it's my honor to be part of this working group 5, and I also look forward to the discussion.
Thank you very much. That's really, really helpful. So I'm going to ask you a particular question which you haven't prepared for, which is something just to get you warmed up a little bit. So if you was an animal, what would you choose?
All right, I think I'd choose to be a bird because I would love to be sometimes in at different places at the same time. So flying would really help getting there. And also my very great passion is traveling, and I think if it had wings, that would make it a lot easier to fly from sometimes very cold Austria to better, warmer places. And I think birds also give you a sort of bird view to look at the interrelated issues better. So if you look from above, I think this could help us all to understand our own positioning in these bigger structures. And coming also from my teaching and research, I'm always interested in these connections between the individual and the collective. So I think a bird as an animal would give me a sort of better view from above, but could also sort of zoom in and fly onto one spot to have a closer look there. And like I said, I could fly easier to a nice beach and warmer temperatures, or to the
Thank
top
you.
of the mountain, maybe as well.
Thank you, Nicole. That is absolutely perfect because it opens up the discussion around the intersectional aspect. Anna, what would you choose?
I think I'll choose a dog because I have a dog, and also as any other animals, but I think dogs have, for me, like some power to open up our heart. And it's the core of my research as well, because my question is what kind of things can open up the agency of children to be the active agent for social change instead of being spoken by adults as a proxy. So that's why I have been applying intersectionality not only as a theory, but also as methodology, because we have to develop the methods as well. So yeah.
Thank you. That's lovely. And for me, if I chose that, I would choose a dolphin. I absolutely love dolphins. I do like to be by water, but also I think dolphins are very not so simple. They're quite complicated animals, and they do also quite sensitive, and they do a lot of work with people which are of disability and various other aspects as well. So I think I'd like to be a dolphin. I could say more about that, but I'm not going to. But thank you very much. I really appreciate that. So what I'm going to do now, just very quickly, is just do a quick, brief um, information on context of WG5, which is the particular area that we're concentrating on. So really, I suppose what I want to say is, so what is intersectionality and why are we so interested in it in the first place? Well, intersectionality can be seen as a framework. It can also be seen as a way of working within research, and also practice. What does that mean? It means that we want to be able to bring together and intersect our particular different characteristics. For example, as three of us are here together, there are three women. We can identify as women. However, each one of us are bringing a different aspect of ourselves within this podcast. Visually, you can see there's difference. Non-visible, you can also see there's differences or hear those differences as well. And I think that's a really important part when we start thinking about highlighting intersectionality. I also think it's important that our particular working group is instrumental to the whole of our cost action, because it was us who had to ensure that intersectionality was implemented throughout the other 5 working groups. And that in itself has been a challenge, but also a challenge which we've embraced. Looking at intersectionality to be able to engage with people which haven't ever used the word before or even touched on the word, and others which have used it as part of their research of every day and are very confident with using it. Also engaging with STEM subjects who perhaps think that intersectionality isn't for them, but being able to see how they blossom and how their work blossoms when they really start to think how it can be used when you're starting to analyze data or when you're dealing with practice, because you need to have an intersectional way of thinking. The love about intersectionality is once you understand it and you understand the lens, you will really start to embrace it and enjoy and see how it will change your thinking and your positionality as researchers. I'm going to move on because time is limited and I really understand that we want to move on to some of the other questions. So I'm going to take time to ask both Nicole and Anna, and they can come in at different stages, about their experiences of being part of the cost action. So I would like you to think about that, think about what have you enjoyed, what skills you've developed, and what new insights you've gained, for example, in relation to intersectionality. I don't mind who starts. I don't mind how you do this. So the floor's yours. Nicole.
Okay, I can start. Yes. Thank you for the question. I've joined the cost action a bit later than the initial start. I actually kind of stumbled upon it while doing my research and figuring out or looking into who's doing work on intersectionality in the European context. Like I said in my introduction, I'm working mainly in the US American context, also in the context of the Americas at the Center for Inter-American Studies at the university. But through the research, of course, it's a very transnational and interdisciplinary approach. So I was looking into European researchers who've done work on intersectionality, and soon I stumbled, so to speak, across this cost action and was immediately drawn to working group 5. This is a bit how I got to know it. And then I went early on to the conference in Malta, which is now, I think, almost 2 years ago, where I and participated, of course, in the online meetings, but then went in person to Malta and met Victoria and, of course, also Anne-Sophie and other great scholars and researchers who were part of the action. And then I think from there onwards, I got more and more involved. I was part of the reading group on intersectionality that we've done for a couple of sessions, which I think was a wonderful experience to really meet so many different researchers from different areas. And I think that's always the strength of European projects, perhaps also the burden, but also the strength to have so many researchers from different disciplines coming together and then using or thinking with a concept like intersectionality, I think can be very beneficial and, of course, also very tricky. I remember having discussions with many colleagues from particularly the hard sciences on the question of what are we even talking about here?
Yeah.
You know, the world is quite simple, but of course, it's not that simple. So I think what projects like this cost action do is really bring people from different areas together and perhaps open up our horizons on how we, in our specific fields, perhaps speak, talk, or think with concepts like intersectionality, and how these are not maybe understood in the same way for other people. So I think this is something we can all benefit from, even if it's challenging, like I said, and even if big projects sometimes go different directions, it nevertheless brings together these different minds, these different ideas. And what I've personally learned a lot about, I think, was sort of how do we transfer a concept like intersectionality and approach that came particularly from the North American context to our European settings? How do we talk about intersectionality in a specific European project that brings together so many different European voices? And I think we know from our own works and lives in Europe that Europe is diverse on its own merits and that diversity, intersectionality is understood in European society specifically. But at the same time, we're living in these structures that are so transnational. So I think that's something that's always interesting to explore, to discuss. How can we transfer concepts? How can we think with these concepts coming perhaps from different cultural and historical backgrounds to our own lives in Europe and our work here at institutions in the European Union, particularly in these times. And I think this is something that we can all gain from to really open our minds to maybe not blindly accept or adapt or transfer everything, but to really critically engage with them and see how they play out in local, regional, and national contexts. And of course, also meeting all these people. So I think it's a wonderful opportunity to find new sort of academic friends in different places. Victoria then went to a conference that I organized at our university in Graz. So we see really these connections. And I think that's just a small aspect from our working group, but that has happened throughout this action, that people really got to meet with each other in person, online, and find new connections on personal levels as well.
Thank you.
Anna, what do you? Oh,
That's no, that's really, really helpful. So, Anna, thinking about your experience.
Sure. So starting with what I have enjoyed, I think I have learned um, that the social justice is a key concept of intersectionality, in my opinion. And what I've learned is that social justice is not just a noun, but it should be a verb. It should be an action with care. And that's what I have learned through the involvement of different activities in the cost action, especially the working group 5. So I truly enjoyed working with everyone in the group, and especially Victoria and Nicole as well, because we have met several times at some conferences. But with Victoria, I feel like with your leadership, we have conducted so many things such as summer school, publishing a journal and blogs, and we have been working in a very diverse group. And I have learned the importance of the leader to lead the group with care and equality and supporting each of us during challenging times and giving opportunities to for early career researchers. And for me, this experience has really brought a sense of intersectionality into our work. So how it looks in practice, that's what I have learned. And in terms of the skills I have developed, so I have gained various skills through my experiences in cost action, including presenting at conferences in different countries, writing and publishing journal articles and blogs, and all of them gave me confidence as an early career researcher. And if you are an early career researcher, having work to share with others in the field is crucial to building a network. So at conferences, people often ask about your research, and having publications from the cost action can serve as a kind of passport and helping early career researchers engage in meaningful discussions with more experienced scholars. And that's what I have actually done through the cost action. So I really appreciate that. And in terms of the new insights I have gained, through the cost action, I learned the deeper understanding of how to apply intersectionality to view people as a whole and also unpack the complex structural issues rather than just focusing on identity issues alone. And I have had an opportunity to publish a journal article which combines intersectionality with a post-colonial approach. And in this work, I unpacked intersecting inequalities experienced by a PhD student in the Global South. And one of the most fulfilling moments in this process was before publication, I had a chance to meet with the participants and ask her if my writing reflected her experiences accurately. And then she confirmed that it did. And also knowing that my work might be useful to those people who have experienced very difficult challenges and also are working to change the social structures was incredibly rewarding. So this whole experience reminded me of the something crucial that I must always remember who I am writing for. Yeah.
Thank you, Anna. I mean, that's quite emotional actually, and it's really, um, for people who are listening, we didn't do any kind of practice on this at all. This is just coming from Nicole and Anna. So I mean, it's really lovely to see, and I think it's really helpful that you've got uh, an early career researcher who's finished her PhD, which is Nicole, and you've got and Nicole's from Austria, and then you've got Anna. Anna's from Japan, and so very different concepts here. And Anna's still doing her PhD, which is in her final year. So I think that's really important as well. And thank you for that. Um, I also want to just draw our attention to, if I may, to if you were advising a colleague who was going to join a cost action, what would you recommend? And I'm going to start with Anna.
Okay, so I really encourage people to actively participate in activities like presenting at conferences or attending meetings, because these opportunities not only help you connect with like-minded people from different countries and disciplines, as Nicole explained, but also these opportunities also bring the importance of an intersectional lens to the forefront in your work and in the discussions. So it's a chance to learn from others who approach issues from diverse perspectives and considering how different factors like race, gender, and class and other factors intersect and shape our experiences. So be proactive.
All right, thank you very much. And Nicole.
Mhm. I'd especially advise early career researcher to look out for cost actions. I think this is how you see how interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary EU projects really work and how you can join a bigger group of researchers quite easily, I would say. right? Because I think participating in bigger EU projects is always difficult, and you need to be in the right place. You need to have the right idea for proposals and maybe a lot of luck to even get the grant at the end. So I think cost actions that are already established could be a very good point to start out building your European networks and beyond. So I would recommend it particularly for early career researchers, but generally for everybody who's interested in joining networks. Like I said in my introduction, expanding our horizons on different levels. And I think in times of in times like these, it's even more important that we step out of our disciplines, that we step out of our comfort zones and really meet with other people to discuss these aspects that Anna has already mentioned, like how do we talk about social justice, but also perhaps on a very sort of more boring academic level, how do we really talk about academia? How do we talk about our disciplines and can make these connections across disciplines? And I think cost actions for us, people who are more in the humanities and social sciences, but for everyone, can have the opportunity to really do transdisciplinary and interdisciplinary work. So I think this is an opportunity for everyone to join, to perhaps find time in their busy schedules to really look out for these bigger networks that are out there in Europe. And I think this is something very special that the European Union offers us to really look across our disciplines with scholars to have the opportunities to meet. So there's also funding in it. I think that's important to mention as well, to have meetings and actually meet in person, talk with people, and find these connections. So I would always recommend looking out for cost actions. They can be found online. I think probably on our website you have links to this as well. So there's established groups where scholars can join, and especially young early career researchers could
Thank you.
benefit
Thank you.
a lot.
Thank you,
Sure.
Nicole. And it's bringing us to our final question, which I would like to ask as well. And this is thinking back to Pacific events. Can you tell us about a few highlights? So we've got the summer schools, meetings, networking, socializing, book club, publications, leadership, and anything else. So have a think about those. And is there any kind of highlights you would like to mention? I'll start with the summer school because that was the first activity for the whole of the cost action. And it happened in 2022, if I remember rightly. I think it was 2022. And it was coming out of the pandemic. I'd been brought in to lead on the intersectionality, and I was confident to do it, but I did not want to do it online. I wanted it to be an in-person experience. And I wanted it to be intersectional, where some people knew nothing about intersectionality, some people knew something, and some people didn't want to know anything. And I wanted to bring them together. And we had a very large group, and we had it in Krakow. And it was amazing. It was an amazing experience. And it was from the Monday to the Saturday. And we had so many different things, so many different discussions. We looked at intersectionality from a whole range of different aspects, and I thought it was really, really good. We had some challenges because it's the first time we'd done it, but it was just, and the weather was absolutely perfect. So the weather was good, the people were good, and it was just a really good experience. And from there, we kicked off into what intersectionality was and how it was going to be. So that was my one, the summer school. Um, Anybody else like to say something about them? Nicole, you've turned yours off. Yeah.
Sure. I think my highlight was the Malta conference. I've never been to Malta, and it was a beautiful. Also, the weather was nice there in, I believe it was early February or mid-February. And I think that was a great place to really connect the working groups with each other and to also have our working group meet in person um, to get to know each other because we've met mainly online before. So Malta conference was really one of my highlights from this cost action. And then I think the second highlights were the book club sessions that we had online that worked quite well, where people would meet online and discuss texts, a reading group, discuss texts on intersectionality, exchange also sources and materials. And I really gained a lot from these chats, these discussions, and the materials that people shared. So yeah, these were my highlights from the cost action.
Thank you, Nicole. Anna.
Yeah, for me, the highlight from the construction has been the summer school as well and the follow-up publication. So I published a blog on the summer school, which Victoria mentioned, and with another member of this group, working group 5. And we explored some key insights which we learned from the summer school. And one of the most important lessons I learned was the value of reflecting on what intersectionality truly means and keeping it as an open question that we can all continue to explore together.
Right. Right. Thank you very much. So that brings us towards the end, but I would like to end with a comment from Anna and a comment from Nicole, just to sum up what you'd like to say regarding working group 5.
Yeah, so as Victoria mentioned, the working group 5, which focuses on intersectionality, can be applicable to all other groups in the cost action and in a lot of display, disciplines as well. So we welcome everyone who are interested to join in our working group, and we really look forward to future discussions and events as well.
And I'd like to sort of end this with quoting Kimberly Crenshaw, the woman who actually used the term intersectionality first. And she said, I think in 2024, intersectionality can't wait. And I think this is sort of the slogan of our working group in our time. So it can't wait, and it still needs discussion, exploration, problematization, and also negotiating how we can really work towards understanding intersectionality in our research, but our also in our private lives and in society as a whole.
Thank you. And to end, I just want to say thank you so much. I really, without your experiences and without your input as early career researchers, Working Group 5 would not have happened in the way it has. So I thank you so much. And yeah, that's the end of the pod.